Hello. It is Monday and it's time for Pop and Politics. We are talking about the latest in hot topics, news, and entertainment. I'm KJ, along with my amazing co-host. Of course, we have Yana.
Hello.
Shelly E. And back with us tonight, as we do every Monday night, we have joining us special guest co-host Tyrone Keys with Soldiers of Finance. Right here on YouTube. Check him out, his YouTube channel, Soldiers of Finance. How are you all doing tonight?
Doing good.
Doing great.
Good. All right. So as I always say, join the conversation by leaving a comment on YouTube or Twitter. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. And don't just comment, subscribe. If you miss us here on YouTube, you can watch us on Rumble or listen to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify under the same name, Pop and Politics. We are an independent media, and if you want to support what we do, your super chats and donations go a long way in helping us produce conservative content. Any amount is appreciated. Guys, this is not just a podcast. This is a movement of God-fearing, truth-seeking, America-loving people that understand we are living in urgent times. And there's a target on our backs because we value freedom. But we still stand. Help us stand together. Let's all amplify this rallying call for freedom and subscribe. All right, everybody, let's set it off. So we have a lot to unpack here tonight. I want to get to the Kamala Harris race issue. We got a jobs report out Friday. The market went crazy today. We're also talking about the Biden-Harris administration's immigration debacle, this Olympic boxer, what's going on with that, and the controversy surrounding, is it a guy, is it a girl? We're talking about that, all of it. We're going to get to every last single thing. So this is going to be a very high energy show tonight. So I want to start out first with Kamala Harris. So you guys, she's been all over the news recently. Not just her, but of course the mainstream media is making a huge deal about the race issue. And so it's kind of getting confusing a little bit now. They're saying Trump is focused on race. Trump, of course, is saying he is responding to Kamala Harris and the mainstream media's push on race. So which one is it? Well, that brings us to this heated exchange between, of course, our own very own Tyrone Keys here and Billy Murphy. Take a look at this. This is clip number 1.
That's bizarre.
Why is Kamala Harris making it an issue?
Because she's multinational.
Identifying as
Come
black.
on. It's a stupid argument. She's multinational. So she has an Indian heritage.
She's not saying
she doesn't have to suppress that. Excuse me. She has an Indian heritage. She doesn't have to suppress that. She has a black heritage. She doesn't have to suppress that. And like you, she also has white blood.
Like we all do. 90% of black people in America do.
Of the African American community has white blood.
Hey,
and so this is a
no one. Wait a minute. No one is answering
by
this question.
A stupid man.
Wait a minute.
Who was
Billy,
a liar.
Why
he
is it
misstated
Billy?
Everything about. I'm not finished. He misstated everything about her background, and you're falling into the stupid trap.
No, I am asking you a specific question. Why is Kamala Harris? Let me ask this question. Why is Kamala Harris making race an issue by now identifying as black? This is her website. Go on it. Check it out. Not one agenda item, but she's bringing rappers.
It's called ignoring the arc of her entire life, Tyrone. Like Trump, you haven't bothered to familiarize yourself with the fact that she's an AKA. And she went to Howard University, and she is being embraced by black women all over the country.
And what does that mean for kitchen table items? What does that mean for inflation? That she's a member of a specific sorority? That's ridiculous.
Tyrone, I'm sorry, Tyrone, you losing this one, brother, badly.
Whoa, it didn't sound like he was losing to me. So I want to start off with you on this, Tyrone, because you pretty much laid it out here. And that's my question. So what's going on? Who started with the whole race issue? And is this a big deal?
Kamala Harris started it by insisting, after being sworn in by Joe Biden as the first Indian American person to be a senator, after running around on TV shows and in California saying she was an Indian, all of a sudden she's black when she needs the black vote. So she started it. And she exposed herself because we've already seen what a non-foundationally black president can mean for the country. I mean, if Barack Obama has any history in his lineage of slavery, it's slave ownership. Okay. And this is important. This is very important because if you're going to claim that you're foundationally black, then what you need to have is a history within your lineage of America's experience with black people. And I don't want to hear this thing about Jamaica, because Jamaica never had Jim Crow. Jamaica never had to fight the Democrats to get them to give up their slaves. So there's a different history there, and it's fine. I don't care what ethnicity she is, but she made it an issue. So now people are pushing back.
Yeah, I want to get you in on this, Shelley. We saw this weekend, Trump had a huge rally with a surrogate there. They call her the Chick-fil-A lady. I can't recall her name off the top of my head.
Montgomery.
Perfect, yes. And she pushed back against this whole narrative as well. What are your thoughts on her speech and then what's going on that we see going on right now?
Well, first, my condolences go out to Richard Scher, because you are about to give that man a heart attack, okay? So he's been around too long. He does not need that stress, Tyrone. So anyway, number two, Michaela Montgomery. I thought she was, I guess I'm going to say, she was a fiery, she was energetic. She definitely, the audience loved her. I think, like most people, she was making a point that Kamala Harris is the one who brings up her race, whatever it may be. Now, what is it now? Multinational? So I don't know, but she was pushing back against that overall. And yes, President Trump has the right to respond to whatever she puts out. Like you, Tyrone, I went to her page today, and there was absolutely zero goose eggs were there about policy or processes. It was all about, her and her glamour and her connections with whatever organizations. Zero. Her page is as empty as her head.
Yeah. Yeah, Yana, I want to get you in on this because, I'm kind of sick of this. I really am. And I agree that this was the Biden-Harris Democrats. They have been pushing this racial bias, race-baiting narrative since Trump walked down those escalator stairs. It's been about race, race, race. And here we are again. And now they're trying to flip the script and say it's us that have an issue with Kamala Harris's heritage. What are your thoughts here?
Well, it's obvious we don't have an issue. I think majority of normal people do not have an issue with somebody's race unless you're racist in any way, whether you're a racist towards white people or you're racist towards black people. You can be either way. So all this talk about what race someone is, it just sounds kind of fascist to me. Like, really, like, enough of that. It's ridiculous. The whole world is laughing at this, that we are making race such a big issue in America, when it used to be that you have to be an American to run this country successfully. We have to have an identity, American identity, and not all this, whether it's an Indian American or a Black American or Jamaican American, that is that is wrong. Like, that is what's going to destroy this country. This identity politics, it goes straight to Marxism. That's what they used to do in the Soviet Union too.
Yeah. And as we know, it was Biden who came out and said, you're not black if you don't vote for him. And what's happening here, from my point of view, they're starting to realize that they're losing that large majority of the black vote that they thought they'd sewn up for years. So what better way to, get that back than to push this black woman as president? And again, they know that most black people will galvanize behind somebody that's black. So forget about the substance. Like Shelley said, you go to Kamala Harris for 2024, whatever website, she doesn't even have her issues. We don't even know what her stance is on anything. She does not have any issues on that website. She's just asking for donations. That should be a slap in the face to anyone who is thinking about voting for her. She feels like she doesn't even have to talk about or give us how she feels on these issues. She's black, and you got to vote for her just because of that, just like Joe Biden said.
Yep.
And let me say this: the other thing that's happening here, and the thing that is really drawing the ire of the black community, is that she's not celebrating the best in the black tradition. She's not talking about Guy Bluford, Mae Jemison, or Ralph Bunche. She's bringing Meg the Stallion and Quavo up on stage. Okay. Quavo, we read his lyrics on a live stream we did the other day. This guy's your gun reform advocate. Okay. His lyrics are laced with, shoot this N-word, shoot that N-word. All right. So that's the other thing that's drawing people's ire. Is like, wait a minute. If you really claim this, then why are you bringing out every negative stereotype? I mean, at the next rally, she'll have people eating fried chicken and watermelon. I mean, at this rate.
Right. And I actually wanted to add, last show, I was speaking about Kamala's dad, but I actually want to give him props. I recently read that he criticized her portrayal of Jamaican people. Mm-hmm. He actually did not like that she equated, smoking weed and I don't know, being kind of on the outskirts of society with being Jamaican. So he didn't like that kind of a stereotype, and he spoke against that, and he said that she's using identity politics, which, I mean, that's, I guess, me, satisfaction that at least he said that. And it seems like they're not on speaking terms with Kamala and her dad.
Oh yeah, well, they're estranged. I believe they're estranged. She was raised by her mother predominantly, and she's estranged from her dad. But most West Indians, especially older ones, don't like that stereotype of all they do is drink and smoke. Mm-hmm. And so because she has really no connection with that part of her family, but she's using that to kind of galvanize the black vote, because that side of her family is the, dark race. That's the black side. She's taken on these stereotypes, and he's saying that's not what we're about. What are you talking about? But right. She can only grab on the stereotypes because she doesn't know what Jamaican
exactly
is.
I don't give a one iota about her history, her family ancestry, her father, her mom, whatever, God rest her soul. I don't give a damn. What I do care about is what happens here in America. And if she is president, oh Lord, I mean, somebody's gonna have to put me on a morphine drip if she is. But if she is president, I hate to even utter those words, and what she's going to do in our country and with our country in the resources around the globe, including the political or the leverage of the executive office. This woman, whatever her ethnicity, is dangerous for America for two reasons. One, because of her ideology, and two, because of her empty-headedness.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, we've already said here at the top of the broadcast, her website doesn't list one iota of information regarding how she plans on getting us out of this recession that they say is coming up. Lowering inflation, securing our border, all of it, nothing. There is no substance on her website. She is just asking for money. But she did come out today, actually, I believe it was Friday, and she made a remark regarding these new job numbers, and she blamed it on Trump. So I want to move on to that. I'm not sure if you all have been following, but recently, alarming jobs report came out on Friday morning. It was released that triggered a sharp drop in the stock market and stoked fear of a coming recession. Kamala Harris actually had the nerve to blame this on Trump. So I want to get your thoughts on this, Tyrone. The market's been going haywire today, and it's all started from, at least from what I can see, from Friday's job numbers. What's going on? How does this affect everyday Americans?
Well, one of the things that's happening is a calculated move to now start to talk down the economy so that Fed Chair Jerome Powell, will be given an excuse to perform an emergency rate cut. The thinking by the Democrats, I'm sure, is let's see if we can get the rate cut. The timing might be right, might carry us into a situation where we're realizing some lower price pressure by election day or shortly before that. Now, it is also true that would raise inflation, but there's a lag between actually lowering the rate and seeing price relief and inflation. So they're calculating that they can get on top of this economic argument by now telling everybody a truth about the economy that has existed for the past 3.5 years. Okay. Mm-hmm. They have gone in and restated the job numbers almost every month of Joe Biden's presidency. So they'll come out with a high number, and then 2 weeks later, off of the front page, they'll restate. And you can check the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It shows you that clearly. The other thing I want to caution the audience on, don't pay any attention to the unemployment rate that they give on the news. That's the Bureau of Labor Statistics U3 rate. It is not the most accurate. They're telling you unemployment is 4.5%. You check the U6 rate, it's 8.2%. All right. So they never report the U6, but you can see it simply by going to BLS.gov and checking the tables yourself. So this economy has been in very rough shape for a long time now. They're letting you know it simply because they want Powell to lower the rates.
And one last question on that, because I know people, you guys need to go to Soldiers of Finance. Tyrone is there. That's his channel, Soldiers of Finance. Go there and subscribe after we finish tonight, and you can get all this economic and financial advice right there. But I want to ask you in regards to Kamala's statement that this is Trump's fault. Is there any validity there?
None. Mind you, remember when the jobs reports, when they were pumping those numbers up, it was they were taking full responsibility for that, right?
Exactly.
But now here we are, almost a full presidential term later, and this nitwit comes up with, oh, it's Trump's fault, who hasn't been in office for the better part of 4 years. This woman is deep as a dime intellectually, okay? This is the type of stupidity that we can look forward to if she gets the Oval Office. And it's disgusting that someone that lacks any intellectual caliber would be considered a serious contender for that office.
Yeah.
So, Go ahead, Shelly. Mm-hmm.
Oh, so Tyrone, when I was thinking, I had asked you some questions earlier, but so with all of these, over these 3 years, all of these job increases and unemployment was supposedly down, then where are these new jobs supposedly, where have they been created? What industry? Who's hiring these people? So this is why I say, one of the things I was thinking is that many, if not most of these so-called new hires or new jobs, they were nothing more largely than rehires from the scamdemic, people who lost their jobs. So help me out.
That is by and large the majority of the jobs that we've seen that have, occurred in the last 3.5 years. The other large portion is government employees. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, when government employees don't do anything, and if you're a government employee out there, hey, look, God bless you. I'm glad you could put food on your table. But the reality is they're not creating a good or service to go out into the open market. What government employees are usually doing is creating red tape that is a drag on business, especially small business. Okay. So not only are those jobs inflationary, but they also, create impediments to business growth. So that's where we're seeing the bulk of this job creation come from. But again, the administration and the Ministry of Information, aka legacy media, is not going to tell you that.
No, absolutely not. And this is another critical issue that affects urban communities, like here in Baltimore. We're struggling to small business owners are struggling all throughout Baltimore City. Many of them are Black and brown, and you have the Democrats, raising the minimum wage, and they're saying this is going to help our community because we're raising the minimum wage. But then you have, like you mentioned, this idea, the government, the federal government is increasing, and people say, oh, this is great. But in the long run, it sounds like it has a detrimental effect on small business owners and entrepreneurs.
It definitely does.
Well, yeah. The two words come to mind. Some of the people that I say I cringe when I hear more government, but almost nobody thinks about, well, if I get more government, what am I actually getting or literally not getting for that? More government, more laws. This is why when I hear people say that, I cringe.
Yeah. Now, real quick, when I was a lobbyist for Verizon at the federal level, and we had an entire department that was dedicated to regulation. All right. Dealing with whatever new regulation. They were not a revenue generating part of the company, but for a company that makes billions of dollars a quarter, okay, they can kind of manage that better than a mom and pop, business who now has to take someone out of a revenue producing role and dedicate them to satisfying, all of these little government apparat checks who want to, get a bonus. So they create all of these new rules. And lastly, when you have legislation, you can have 2 pages of legislation front and back. But once that goes from the legislature out to the regulatory bodies, that thing will balloon to thousands of pages, each with their own little sets of rules. So that's the danger when these politicians go down to these capitals and start feeling as though they need to create more laws. What they need to do is look at the books and start taking away some of these laws.
Absolutely. I want to get you in here, Yana. I want to move on to this next segment, and I want to start off with you with your response. We're now talking about this Olympic boxer madness. So again, the Olympic boxer Imane Khelif has denounced the bullying amid the Olympic boxing gender controversy. So the athletes at the center of this are Imane Khelif, 25, of Algeria, and Lin Yu Ting, 28, of Taiwan. The video went viral this week of the Italian boxer who fought the Algerian Khelif, and Khelif hit her so hard that she what you call
she dropped out.
She dropped out. Yeah, she forfeited.
She lost. Yeah.
Right. She forfeited the boxing thing. She said she couldn't move on anymore. Well, comes to find out that this Imane Khelif, this is the female boxing event, has XY chromosomes. So this thing has gone crazy. I'm sure you guys have been following it. People are saying this boxer is a man. Some people then know this boxer is saying she was, raised a woman. She's been a girl. She's raised a girl. They show pictures of her as a young girl. But it's been a whole firestorm over this. Yana, what are your thoughts on this whole controversy? Should she be able, this Khelif, who has XY chromosomes, continue to box within the female event?
No, absolutely not. I mean, she is a freak of nature, and freaks like her, they belong in the circus, not in the Olympics. And so she's an intersex person. So like the same way how with the transgenders, now they're saying it doesn't matter what DNA you have, you can compete against women. So then it doesn't matter that this person, she's a freak of nature, I'm going to say it, and she doesn't deserve, I don't care where she goes. Maybe they can have a Special Olympics for people like her. But the women, actual XX women, they don't deserve to be beaten up like this by someone who has a different DNA, a totally different body structure, different bone structure than them. So it's absolutely ridiculous. And the trans movement, they have pushed for this. This is why we're having this situation, is because they don't want to check what's going on with these people's bodies before they actually put them in the ring. I kind of see it's almost like gladiator fights, when they would pair a person against a lion, just for entertainment. So basically, this is what is happening with the Olympics.
Yeah, I wanted you guys to take a look here, just for people who haven't been following this. Here, take a look at my screen here. Here is Imane Khelif. Again, this is from Algeria, going for the gold. Khelif beat the Italian female. I think she broke her nose. And so now in going for the gold again, are actually the two people with XY chromosomes, Khelif and Lin. From Lin Yu Ting from Taiwan are going against each other to get the gold medal. What are your thoughts on this, Shelley?
Look, my thoughts are this. I heard today that maybe both of them may have XY. For me, Y marks the spot, not X. Y marks the spot. Since all of history, all of biological history, the Y chromosome determines the sex. Since both men and women have an X chromosome, then the Y is the decision maker automatically. So that's that for me. I don't care if they are both XY, then why is either one of them boxing under the women's banner? That's so the IOC, the Olympic Committee, whatever other board of directors they were talking about, all of these people are loony. Okay, they are trying to create something new, something reimagined with their warped minds, and they are ignoring the science that we were told we should follow just a few years ago.
All right. Tyrone, what are your thoughts on here? So the IOC has been aware of this problem in women's boxing for years, and it's done nothing because its number one goal is inclusion. So, I mean, do you believe that some type of accommodations need to be made? Should they have these people in fighting female boxers? What are your thoughts here?
I think that if the Olympic Committee was going to allow this, they should have first gone back and given the medals back to the East German swim team from 1976, because they were found to be using performance enhancing drugs that I think they were taking part of what they were taking were testosterone. So they should first do that if they're going to now allow this. I think that Yana is correct that they probably want to carve out some specific other thing. Okay. If they're going to gig you for performance enhancing drugs, then there's no way they can logically ignore the biological differences that give men on average more strength than women. All right. And I don't remember the name of these two combatants, but the judo competition, you had one guy kick a guy and he knocked him out. They disqualified the kicker because they said he hit the other guy too hard. But then on the other side in boxing, you've got this confusion. So I don't follow the Olympics. It's just gone crazy. The opening ceremony was trash, weird Western European trash. Okay. I just can't get with it. It's just confusion.
Yeah, it is. And what's going on here specifically is these two people have DSD. It's not common at all, but it's also not unheard of. So basically, they have all the genetics of men. So if you did not look at these two individuals and you just looked at their genetic makeup, you would think they are men. They are men. They have all female parts on the outside, I believe. Now you can see they don't really have very large breasts. Some women don't have breasts anyway. But I think they have female sexual parts and things
they may or may not. We do not know what they have inside. So they may have like female genitals on the outside, but then inside we do not know. They may not, like I've looked into this kind of genetic issue, and they may not have ovaries, like they may not have the internal organs of a woman. I have a feeling Brittany Griner is one of them.
They could have both. It goes by. That's why they had the DNA testing. And again, what I was listening to today, I know Imane and maybe the other one have tested with a Y chromosome. That is not their fault. It has nothing to do with hormones. Okay, hormones don't change your chromosomes. Okay, so if they were born that way, you know what? I'm sorry for that. But if they have a Y chromosome, then that means they have at least 50% testosterone in male parts, however they play out.
Yeah, and this wouldn't have been an issue, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But because the Olympics have decided to include transgenders, now they have, gone away with the whole genetic makeup, and they're trying to push these two and keep them in the female event, which they really should not be in. They really shouldn't.
And I mean, it's kind of hilarious that now you have two XY people fighting each other in the end. So they beat all the women. So basically, women. I mean, I want to hear from women's rights activists on this. Like, they pushed the women out of the whatever women carved for themselves. How they always say we carved our space, and now they're being pushed out of it.
Yeah. Where's Gloria Steinem? What does she have to say about all this? But the other thing is, if you look at the historical decline in many cultures, it's preceded by a fascination with androgyny. So here we are.
Yeah, that's what I thought about the Roman Empire. When you think of what happened, well, there's the biblical reference of Sodom and Gomorrah, but also there's actual historical information about the city of Pompeii. Because it was so well preserved, we can see what was going on there. It was a very deviant society. And there was a lot of just open nudity, lots of deviancy. The intersex or these hermaphrodite statues were being created. They were idealized, and that society collapsed. And so this is what's happening, and it's starting. Well, definitely Europe has more of that. America, there's still people here who are fighting against this movement.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, it seems like we're starting to regress. I do want to acknowledge our super chatters. Guys, you are amazing. Thank you so much. All right, let me see here. So we have Big Dog. Hey, Big Dog. Says my fear is the young new voters who will vote for her just because she's so-called black, but ignorant on policies we should be better politically. I agree. Listen, a lot of people vote for their own demise. They don't vote for their interests. If they're that gullible, if they're going to be allowing themselves to be played, you get what you vote for. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
Nana Peggy says, thank you so much, Nana. We certainly appreciate your super chat. All right, Common Sense says, you're such an inspiring group. Oh my gosh.
You.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Hey,
we also had a super chat from after last show. It was after the show. I noticed in the comments. So I just want to say thank you to Wendy Gvozdich. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. You know, we are not just a podcast, we are a movement. And guys, we have to continue to form this community, stick together. Because as you can see, the world is going topsy-turvy. They're trying to suppress truth, so trying to suppress facts. And so we have to stick together, amplify our voices, and really push each other out there. Share this broadcast, send it to your family, friends in a DM, share it on your social media. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. All right, so we are moving right along. I want to talk about, speaking of all of this confusion going on, and I want to talk about the Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party trying to pack the court. So the Washington Examiner reports Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said there are plans to roll out major overhauls to the Supreme Court if Democrats win control of the White House and both chambers of Congress. This election is very important. I think it's probably the most important election of our lifetime. And I know you probably hear that over and over again, but this is it. This is it. You see right here, they're trying to change the framework of our country, not only through immigration, which we're going to talk about, but the actual Supreme Court. Really, what are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts are they're doing whatever they do like they usually do. They want to change the foundations. I say it almost every show now, even more so in this last year. Obama, we are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America. I don't know what people cheered for when they heard that. I don't know why they cheered, because to fundamentally transform something means that anything that you have stood on, foundation, whether it's your country, your religion, whatever, means it's going to be turned upside down, if not totally destroyed. So what are they doing? They want to change our Constitution. They don't want the Supreme Court. They want to be able to put in whomever they want, when they want, for whatever reason they want. Any whim or any wind that blows, that's what they want to do. These people are dangerous.
Very dangerous. They want us like Venezuela. So again, Schumer introduced a bill on Thursday called the No Kings Act to roll back the Supreme Court's presidential immunity ruling. If successful, this would mean that a president would not be immune from prosecution for official acts. They also want to, even though with control of the White House and both chambers, Schumer and Democrats would have to blow up the filibuster without a supermajority for 60 votes. So this again is reporting out of the Washington Examiner. Jan, what are your thoughts on this? And we've seen this before, haven't we, in other socialist communist countries?
Exactly. And Democrats, they will say, all these things about democracy and how they're anti-racist and all that, but then they actually behave like what they say they hate. So if they hate racism, they talk about how they become racist. If they say that they're pro-democracy, they're actually starting to change the Constitution. They want to pack the Supreme Court, and they want to change how this country is run. So, and it reminds me of the Animal Farm, where the pigs, they would always talk about how they're anti-human because humans are bad, and then they move into the human's house. So that's who they are.
Yeah, Tyrone, I kind of, I don't understand, why what are they saying the reason, what will this cause? Because they're trying to state a goal of instituting 18-year term limits for justices, as well as an end to form shopping, a practice in which litigants choose to have their cases heard before friendly judges in specific divisions. Okay. So, I mean, how is this good for the United States?
It isn't for the republic as we know it. It is from the standpoint of the pure democracy that they want. Now, democracy is classically defined as two wolves and a lamb voting on what's for lunch. When they say they're trying to preserve democracy, they mean it. All right. Even though in the Constitution, it spells out that we are a republic. Real quick on the No Kings Act, Kamala Harris would be dumb enough to sign away her immunity from official act. And they know that. That's a clear insult to her intellect, but she'd do it. So the other thing that you got to understand with the Supreme Court, with what they want to do with it, is they want to water down the co-equal power of the judiciary branch.
Wow.
They don't like the fact, and that's just the start. Okay. The lifetime appointment has a purpose behind it. It keeps them to a large extent impartial. Okay.
Right.
Now, I personally think that they've got something on Roberts because he switched up immediately. But the lifetime appointment helps. The Senate and the House, they really have lifetime appointments as long as they can keep getting reelected. All right. Look at Dianne Feinstein. They actually had to inject her with embalming fluid to wake her up, to get her to come back in there and vote. Okay. But the goal here is to eliminate or to drastically dilute the co-equal power of the judiciary simply because they want to install a more tyrannical form of government. And they see the influx of immigrants, many of whom will vote Democrat consistently, as a way to hold power in perpetuity.
Absolutely. Yeah. And speaking of that, that moves us to the border. So they have been all over the place with this immigration. And now we have new news out. So the Biden administration halted a program that flies migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela into the United States after the Department of Homeland Security uncovered massive fraud by the program's applicants. So this is a program, mind you, that never got congressional authorization and violates laws already on the books. So again, this is the Washington Examiner reporting. So a review by DHS's Citizenship and Immigration Services found that possibly tens of thousands of applicants from migrant sponsors contained fraudulent information, same addresses, for example, used by many of them, fake social security numbers, all to get into the United States. Along with this, they just gave the Taliban over $239 million of our taxpayer dollars, went to the actual Taliban by mistake. I mean, have you guys been following all of this? It's crazy.
Yeah. First of all, it was not a mistake. Okay, let's just get that off the table. That's what the media is saying. That may be what the State Department is saying. But every year, including 2023, 2024, our government sends about 60-something billion over in foreign aid. Now, that's just the aid that we know about, okay? And not to mention that much of that aid, and this is according to, I forget, foreignaid.gov, something like that. But this not many of those agencies that are sending and or receiving money overseas, I call it double dipping or triple dipping, because these agencies a lot of them are under the State Department, which means that the State Department gets a budget. Then these agencies under the State Department get a separate budget. And who's overseeing whom? This is why people are the America First group or whatever, our voting bloc. This is why many of them, or including myself to a large degree, this is why we're upset. This is why we want less government, less bureaucracy, because it does nothing to help Americans here at home. I'm sick of it. I've been sick of it. And all of this money, it's not a mistake. You and I could underpay our taxes, I don't know, let's just say by a good $1,000, $2,000. By the end of the damn year, taxes go out in April. You file your taxes in April. By June, I wouldn't say the end of the year. By June, you are receiving a letter from the IRS with penalties and interest because you didn't pay your taxes.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I don't think it was a mistake either. I can't see how that could happen, because I worked for an international organization where we had to send a letter every year to the State Department asking for money. So it was required for us to send that letter. So how can they pay someone without a request, without any kind of formal document, like to where this money is going? So I don't understand how this could possibly happen, that someone just approved this much money being sent out.
Yeah, $230 million. Government watchdog Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction issued a July 2024 report identifying at least 29 grants where Taliban may have erroneously received counterterrorism funds. This is what we have going on. These people don't know. They either know what they're doing or they don't know what they're doing. And if it is something that they do know what they're doing, we're in trouble because they're going against our own interests. I mean, Tyrone, what are your thoughts on this whole situation?
I agree that it was definitely intentional. I'll take it a step further. It looks like they're trying to set Afghanistan up as the new money laundering capital because so many eyes are on Ukraine, and that seems to be maybe, going in a direction that they didn't anticipate. Think about this. Now, we were in Afghanistan for an entire generation, for a literal generation. Think about the sacrifices that the men and women of the United States military made in terms of losing their lives, losing their limbs, emotional issues, for us to turn around and not only give them a brand new military, because we left all that equipment there. Oh, well, they can't use it. Listen, they have mechanics. They can use it. But what they found is more effective is to sell a lot of that equipment. So you've given them a hell of a revenue stream. You're sliding them dollars under the table. And meanwhile, you're wondering why you're having trouble recruiting people to the U.S. military, because you do underhanded stuff like this and nobody wants to report and take orders from a transgender.
I have said many times, I don't care if you're black, white, blue, purple. Two things that should stop you in your tracks from voting for Kamala and Biden. Number one, the Afghanistan pullout was just horrific on all levels. And number two, the way they have handled our border. Those two things have made us less safe. They've had terrible economic impact on us, on every last American. I mean, the list goes on. Those two things alone should stop you in your tracks. I don't care if you're blue, black, from voting for Kamala Harris.
Right.
So, it's ridiculous. And they continue to do these things. And they're doing it by design. Like you all have said, this was not a mistake. This is the playbook of Marxism. Right. As we mentioned on this show previously, there is 45 goals of the Communist Party. They put this out in, I believe, 1943. They are trying to cause massive chaos to then instill a one world order. This is it, plain and simple.
Look, KJ, real quick, I'm sorry. Not only was it not a mistake, it was, I bet you dimes to donuts, it was much more than that. 239 million is a relative drop in the bucket to the billions and trillions of dollars that the U.S. farms out. I bet you, for some way, in shape or form, it was about to come out some kind of way. So they had to come up with something to put it out there early. It was much more than that.
Absolutely.
That was just the big guys, 10%.
Yeah.
Oh.
Exactly.
I do want to acknowledge our super chatters here, guys. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. Kofi 19, thank you, Kofi. And we're coming up on your topic and shortly. So I definitely want you to stick around for that. Neko, thank you so much. Certainly appreciate that super chat. Thanks, guys, for watching. LAPD, yes, says press Putin and his friends don't want any part of Western values. Did you check out Matthew 7:13? Oh. 7:13 incident in Pennsylvania with Donald Trump. Yep, absolutely. So yeah, I agree. There's so much what do you call it? Just flip-flop. There's so much they want us to look here, but really it's over here what we should be paying attention to. And so I certainly agree there. All right. And I want to talk, we've been talking about this Biden-Harris administration's issue on the border and immigration and things like that. But let's also talk about how they treat Americans. So we know that they, throwing money at non-citizens, illegals, they're, open border for them. But Kamala Harris has a really bad track record of actually dealing with Catholic Americans. And she has been, pretty much spouted as being anti-Catholic. So, we do know Catholics, there's a large portion with, of Catholic Americans in the United States. And right now, a conservative Catholic group is calling her out because of it. So they've called her actually one of the most anti-Catholic senators. And she may be, if she's elected, she will be probably go down in history as the most anti-Catholic president. Starting off with, again, I have here the Biden administration's anti-Catholic bigotry was seen with the nomination and appointment of Secretary of Health and Human Services, Xavier Becerra, who infamously led progressives' longstanding efforts to force the Little Sisters of the Poor, a Catholic order, to violate their religious precepts and pay for birth control. And if you guys remember, this made headline news. I think it was back in 2018, where she was questioning a judicial nominee, and she made a big deal about him being Knights of Columbus. She was condemning him for that. She condemned the organization. She says here, since 1993, you have been a member of the Knights of Columbus, an all-male society comprised primarily of Catholic men. She says, and she was making some insinuation that should preclude him from being on the district court because he was Catholic. I remember that. I remember when it was made. The video went viral. What are your thoughts on this, Shelley? And I'm not Catholic, but that's a problem.
Look, first of all, Kamala Harris, she doesn't know what she is. She only knows what she's programmed to spit out. She's a dense and a dunce. That's what she is. So that's number one. Number two, most Catholics are not too happy with Biden and Kamala Harris, primarily because of abortion. These groups, the Knights of Columbus and the Shriners, I bet she has zero idea whether or not they're Catholic. I don't really care, but I do know they tend to do a whole hell of a lot of good work for children who are disabled, sick children, where their parents cannot afford to care for them. They do a whole lot of good work. They probably do more good work in one day than Kamala Harris has done all year.
Yeah. In 2015, when she served as California's Attorney General, she sponsored the so-called FACT Act, which legally required pregnancy care centers to advertise for free or low-cost abortion facilities in their waiting rooms. So fortunately, this law was struck down by the Supreme Court in 2018. Then also 2016, when a whistleblower revealed that Planned Parenthood was illegally trafficking organs and tissue from aborted infants, she outrageously ordered a raid on the whistleblower's home to seize his evidence. I mean, should American Catholics be alarmed?
Absolutely. I mean, they should have been alarmed decades ago. I don't know what's going on with Catholics, but the thing is that if she is against Catholics, she's against all Christians, because Catholics are Christian. Other Christians follow the same book. So this is what she's against. And she is satanic and she's a communist. I mean, that's synonymous. So if you're a Marxist, if you're a communist, you're going to be promoting this kind of anti-religious rhetoric, this anti-religious behavior. So you're going to be like I've been saying that over and over. The first country to make abortion legal was the Soviet Union, because of Marxism, because it's in the canons of Marxism, is that a woman should have a right to do that. So she is promoting Marxism everywhere she goes. So it's not surprising. And Catholics need the ones that keep been voting Democrat, they need to, I don't know, start reading the Bible and start going to church for real, and really just enough of this nonsense. And this what happened in the Soviet Union, where they blew up our churches and killed the priests and burnt the Bibles. This is what the Democrats want to see here.
Yeah. And they talk about, my body, my choice. With the Do No Harm Act that she introduced, it would compel Catholic doctors to violate their sincerely held religious beliefs and perform abortions and transgender surgeries.
Well, and if they do that, they're not Catholic. If anyone who does that, and anyone who supports this kind of murder, they're not Catholic. And so, and if they're gonna say, "Oh, but it's my job," blah blah blah, no, then you are, then you might as well just say that you're with the Satan.
What are your thoughts there, Tyrone, on that? I mean, we do. Yana brings up a good point about it's not just Catholic, but all religions. But I haven't really seen Christians pushing back against Kamala Harris like you would think.
Well, I am a Catholic, and I'm also a Knight of Columbus. So if you hear a helicopter and my screen goes dark, I guess you know what happened. But this is one thing that Catholics do not have, something that Islam does, which is pretty much ideological unanimity on certain issues. Okay. You've got Catholic parishes that are out and out coming with a very liberal, antithetical message to, what's in the Bible. All right. And it is a threat to Christianity as a whole, and Judaism also. And the reason for that is because a lot of the core Catholic tenets are taken from the Jewish faith. Don't forget also that the Department of Justice targeted Catholics, called us radical if we observe things as insane as the Latin Mass. Okay. This is the Biden Department of Justice that started that initiative. So yes, and it's wild that he calls himself a Catholic, Pelosi too. But this is what they've done. I think they know what they're doing. Is that old poem, First They Came for This Group. Okay. Right. And by the end of the day, you're standing there alone because there's no one to speak for you. So yeah, Catholics, we definitely, now I personally belong, this come as no surprise, I belong to a conservative parish. But the problem is we don't have that unanimity that we need. Lots of Catholics don't even see what's going on as a threat, unfortunately.
Yeah. Look, we just talked about the Supreme Court. The one way that they would get this, like having these doctors or whomever, is to stack the Supreme Court. Because then if people protested or filed lawsuits again to take it to the Supreme Court, well, the judges will be predominantly on the left. Who are they going to vote against?
Right. Yeah, well, they don't want any checks and balances. And as you said, Tyrone, they do not value our republic. I do want to get to these super chatters. We do have some additional super chatters here. Thank you guys so much. All right, let me see here. I have Bridget. Thank you, Bridget. She says, y'all, Louisiana is MAGA 2020.
Oh, Louisiana.
Oh, Louisiana. All right. Yes. Rob Groenveld, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rob. A Euro.
Yeah.
That's Winnie from Holland. That's who that is. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, that's one of my faithful viewers. Yeah.
Oh, nice. And if you guys are just tuning in, that is Tyrone. He's here with us from Soldiers of Finance, his channel right here on YouTube. You got to check him out for all of your financial, economic issues and questions. Really good. So one last topic tonight. We Black people, we got to do better. We got to do better, you guys. I don't even know how to introduce this. Do we need to be likable in the workplace? And is there a different standard for Black women? Are Black women seen as angry? Take a look at this exchange.
Women in America, both professionally and socially. This topic began with a national figure, Amanda Seales, who talked about the issue of being likable in the workplace. Do you have to be likable in the workplace to succeed, or can you be unlikable but good at your damn job and still succeed? That also led us to the issue of Black women in the workplace and life. Are they required to be likable and good at their job to make it? Otherwise, some would see them as the angry Black woman. Joining us to talk about it, therapist Dr. Angela Jones, along with Amber Lowell, B&B Hospitality owner Bevan Biggers, and real estate expert Melissa Wilson, and Isaiah Factor producer Malia Carruthers. Glad to have you all here on The Factor Uncensored. Amber, you changed that damn last name. You got married. Now you're flaunting it all over the show.
I got in trouble last time you called me Neil.
So, Dr. Jones, let's begin with you. This is your segment. When we talk about the angry Black woman, and especially for Black women having to be likable in the workplace, your thoughts on that?
Unfortunately, the answer is yes, but I'm using the word unfortunately. The fact that someone that can be unqualified, someone that doesn't have the same amount of skills, just because people like them, or maybe, as you would say, they will kiss other people's behind a little bit more. Yeah. There you go.
The factor.
The fact that they're able to do that, they're able to unfortunately move up in the workplace a little bit faster than someone who is intelligent and can do the job probably 3-4 times better than that person can move up faster. So at the end of the day, it's an unfortunate reality. So I'm not saying it with enthusiasm that yes, being likable is more important, but yes, unfortunately in this day of age, I have to like you in order to want you. And now we're just kind of playing a game in the workplace, trying to see what you like, see what you want to do, and I try to like cater to you. So it is an unfortunate reality.
All right, Bevan, let's talk to you about this. Do you feel any extra pressure as a black woman?
Past, I've worked at like white-owned, white majority places, and I was never really allowed to be upset about anything. I could be upset about the same thing as a white coworker, but I'm the only one seen as angry. The other person.
And if you are angry, what would they say about you?
It's like the microaggressions, like, oh, the angry black lady. Oh, we don't want to walk around you. You might fight us. I'm like, I'm just upset because, a dude just poured his drink on the bar. Just obvious things. So in business, yes, I try to be a little over kind and over.
So I want to get you guys, I want to stop it right there for a moment and get you guys' thoughts on the idea of likability first. Because really, that's just a general question. Do you believe it's important to have a likability factor in the workplace? And I'll start with you, Tyrone, on that.
Yeah, I don't know where these individuals worked, but when I was in the work world, and even now, among clients and colleagues, yeah, you can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. This is just something that as an adult, you should know. And if you're in the workplace, I would imagine that, once you get into work, you're working on whatever it is they do there, right? You're kind of subordinating your individualism a little bit, okay? And I don't know. Look, I've heard people say black guys are cool. I've heard a lot of people say, black guys are cool. Yeah, we are, okay? And so I'll take that stereotype. You know why? Because we don't run around looking for issues, but it's also a woman thing. Women, period, doesn't matter what color they are. Women typically don't like other women, all right? And when you find in the workplace a plethora of women, then, the claws come out and okay, there it is. So I think it's more of a woman thing than necessarily a black woman thing. But it's 2024. We got to make everything about race. So
I know. I'm so sick of it. Shelley, what are your thoughts on just the likability factor? Do you believe that's important in the workplace in general? I know there's different types of careers.
I think when I saw that clip, I thought all those women had excellent points to make. The likability factor, interestingly, as a woman, I'm going to say that it should be less than what it is. But I attribute that to what Tyrone said. I think it's largely because when you have a lot of women historically tend to make the worst bosses. So they don't, like Tyrone said, they typically don't like other women. They don't want the competition. They don't want somebody looking better than them, whatever the case may be. And they don't tend to focus on the actual business bringing in the bucks. So that's not as high as the other likability factors. So for me, I don't think it should be as important as it is, because if someone is competent, maybe they might not. I'm not saying they have to be mean. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they have to be mean or just outright rude to everyone. That's not what I'm saying. Maybe their personality just doesn't click, but they are bringing in the bucks and doing their job. And most women cannot separate that.
Yeah, I want to get your thoughts on that, Yana. Do you feel like likability there's too much emphasis placed on likability, or you feel like, that is important to have in the workplace?
It is important to have in the workplace and life. So there's such thing as hard skills and soft skills. These are all skills. So what these women are saying is that their soft skills, like if someone lacks soft skills, if someone lacks the ability to be pleasant at a workplace, then we should just let that go. But you know what, unless you're working in a lab, okay, in some places you don't need to interact with people much. So if you're studying microbes all day long, then it's okay. You don't have to be nice to you can be just competent at your job. But I'm pretty sure these women that were talking on that panel, I'm pretty sure they work in like a business, or they work in an office with
No,
other
they
people.
don't. Some of them are on their own businesses. Some of them for 20-something plus years.
Okay, so they work.
No, they do work. She
with
was a business owner, but she did work with other people.
No, right. Oh, they have. Yes,
it's
yes.
a big part of their job. So
Right,
what I'm saying is that unless you are sitting by yourself in a cell in some sort of cubicle and you don't speak to anyone, then yes, being likable is important. Because if you're a bitch, then you have to be perfect at your job. Because if you make a mistake, any mistake, you're gonna be gone, because no one likes you anyway. And mistakes are inevitable. So let me tell you, once at one of my jobs, I made a really big mistake. I really pissed off one of the big bosses. He wanted to let me go right away for that one mistake. And my other boss talked to him and he said, no, we can't let her go. She never complains about anything. She's she's so easy, to work with. And that is why I stayed at that job. So if you just think about that, like you're going to have to work way harder if you're going to be a bitch all the time, because then you have to be perfect.
Now,
this is where I differ.
Well, before you go, I want to move on because I want to keep going on this video just to talk about the actual the racial part of it. Take a look here.
Or cheery, because I don't want to come off as that, but and that's just how.
And talk about it.
People to like me, but I do not have the luxury of being silent or being quiet just because my personality is so big. Anytime I just want to relax, it's like, why are you upset? Like, don't start any trouble. I feel like because I'm very dominant when it comes to work, when I show up at work, I show up at work, and I make sure I succeed at every level.
An employer and what you deal with when you hire black women or young black women.
Right. So I'm on a different angle. I've been because my in this group, 30 and above, a little bit more serious about that.
I think it's like a black woman thing, because I deal with a lot of Gen Zs and they
experiences with putting a employer.
Say.
Racism don't exist.
The bottom line is, if you see it, say something and be an ally to your sisters, because at the end of the day,
Be likable in the workplace if you're a black woman, or are you seen as the angry black woman? Dr. Angela Jones, help us out here.
I was listening to the different perspectives that were being said on this panel. So when she was mentioning that she does hiring, she is looking for likability because probably of what the product that she sells or the kind of business that she's in. But overall, as black women, we are in all spaces and in all fields. And so being likable, again, should not be the reason why I get hired for a job, right? Now, if I'm just blatantly rude in an interview and I'm cussing at you or something like that, that's totally different. That's just in regards to respect. But the problem is that they're looking for black women to fit into this mode, to be agreeable and not morally correct, or not to have emotional and intellectual intelligence. And the problem is that they want to keep us in these roles that they have put into us decades ago as a Jezebel or as a mammy or as somebody that's loud. I mean, even when you watch TV shows these days, I kind of feel heated when I'm saying it. There's always, mostly, if there is a black woman on there, she's angry. She's the one that's a protagonist. She's the one that's creating a hostile environment, or she has a problem, or she's snapping her neck. So in society, they have continuously put us in this role, and they want us to fit into a space that they want us to be soft, but they also want to call us angry.
Melissa, when she say they,
so you're shaking your head, Tyrone. I want to get you in on this because this is something that is pushed a lot. People say black women are not agreeable. They're very loud, very aggressive. What are your thoughts on
that? Where do I start?
Be honest.
Okay. Let me take this. The loud piece. Okay. Now, my wife is a lady. Okay. Like Condoleezza Rice, she's in that mode. Okay. Mm-hmm. But my wife is loud. In fact, her mother is loud too. Her father used to say, Callie doesn't need a phone. Okay, because her mother's so loud. You can hear her like down the block, right? So I don't know what's up with that, but yeah, black women are usually pretty damn loud. but that doesn't necessarily go with, you know, a bad attitude. Like these ladies on this panel, like, lady, what are you talking about? They're looking for everybody to be agreeable. Okay. I've worked in environments where it's been like 70 people, 4 of whom were Black. All right. And everybody needed to get along, not just the Black people. Okay. So this is just a thing where they are pushing the stereotype themselves. They are perpetually aggrieved. All right. Like the one woman was in the first segment, she was saying, and somebody spilled a drink on the bar. And yeah, well, just clean it up, lady. You're going to be there for the next 6 hours. You know, you got to do something, right? And just keep it moving. I mean, so what? Right? It's your job. So it's much ado. I mean, I think people, and what I tend to do is when I encounter folk that have these, like, it's perpetual aggrievement syndrome, I say, hey, look, we got it good. You probably got running water at your house. And people in this world got to travel a mile to get a gallon. Okay, chill out. So I think it's a lot of decadence, a lot of, you know, American uber comfort. They just have to have a problem. And these women on that panel demonstrate that perfectly.
Well, that's my issue. And I'll talk to you, Shelly, because you have a group of Black women and we don't see this type of stuff with white panels. I don't generally see white women talking about they are being seen as angry or, you know, issues with it. So this, as you mentioned to me, this whole panel kind of supports the whole idea of what they're saying is not true to me.
I totally disagree with that panel. Number one, they were asked a question, and the whole point, I think, or at least one big point, was that why white people are not. This is a stereotype that's perpetuated. These women were talking about the stereotype and how they have maybe endured it or been a part of it or in some way, shape, or form. So that's what I totally disagree. I don't think any of these women, at least not here, they didn't come across to me as the angry Black woman. They were talking about how the first woman with the hat, I think, how she has to go out of her way to be, I guess, more likable, or at least the projection of likability, just so that she doesn't get that stereotype added to her. So I totally disagree with that. And now number two, and now this was according to a Harvard business study, who still pretty much does some reputable research, talking about the stereotype of Black women. The one, I think she was the therapist or researcher, how historically this stereotype has been laid on Black women, and Black women can be rightly upset like a white woman, maybe whatever the issue may be. It could be a legitimate issue, but because a Black woman will also have the latch of angry, as if it's her personality flaw, when it's something legitimately to be upset about.
Well, I want to get you in on this, Yana. I mean, honestly, I've worked in customer service for many years, and I've dealt with all types of ethnicities, races, genders. And I do find that American Black women are disagreeable. I do find and I only say that and again, it's not, you mentioned the loudness. You know, a lot of many American Black women are loud. And so I think that automatically comes off as aggressive to some people who don't realize that. I always tell the story of, I was listening in on a call. I was doing a call observe to some employees, and an African woman called. And it was a customer service thing, and she was very loud, and she was, talking very strongly, but she wasn't upset. It was just the culture is just very loud and in your face. So I don't know if that lends to this, where you do have a large amount, because I'm loud. I'm a loud person. You have Black women being loud, and then do we automatically come off as aggressive when we're not generally being aggressive, maybe that's what it is. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I think it depends what you're saying. So you can be loud and be pleasant at the same time. I mean, I have a friend who we work together, and she's a black, actually she's family is African, but she grew up here. And they still remember her at that place. Oh, they remember her laugh. You know how loud and happy her. And she was always joking, and she was loud, but she was very pleasant. So it depends, what you're saying. It's also your words matter, the choice of words that you're using when you're speaking. So I think all of those things kind of come together. So I think some people just have a louder voice, but that's not necessarily the issue there. Maybe there's they're not looking at what they're actually saying, how they're addressing somebody else, the words that they're choosing. And I think at a workplace, you have to be mindful of that, regardless of your race. And that one lady on the panel, when they asked her for specifics, she said something about microaggression. I'm sorry. That is something, I think that's something in her head. So, when you don't have specifics to give me, then I think it's your personal issue. You're assuming that people are seeing you differently when they may not be. So, I mean, maybe, that's a thought, maybe to have a thought that majority of people who are interacting with you, they're not judging you by your color. I mean, that can be the truth, actually.
Yeah.
KJ, to go back to the beginning of the show, when you showed Billy Murphy and I speaking about the issue, that can be misinterpreted. But if you go into most black barbershops, you're going to find black men conversing in that manner. Okay. Now, I said it in, before the show started, Billy and I are great friends. Okay. But with my friends, this black guys, this is how we talk. All right. And I will voluntarily or involuntarily moderate that with friends I have of other cultures, because I don't want them to misinterpret the passion I bring for aggression. Now, another black guy, most black guys I know are not going to do that. And that's fine, different cultures. But lastly, I think this also is something that, especially with black men, that leads to issues with law enforcement, because they sometimes are unaware of how black men tend to communicate. And a lot of black men are not cognizant that, hey, this guy's from York, Pennsylvania. He might not get down like this. So it's a code switching thing. It's an art of language thing. It's complicated.
But see, and this is why, this is the part of old school diversity, equity, and inclusion, or at least just diversity training, that I did enjoy. Because, part of the training that we used to do within customer service and diversity training is, being aware of different cultures, different ethnicities, and how they communicate. And so when you are cognizant of that, then you realize, this person isn't yelling, this is an African woman, and this is just, the way her speech is. This is the way she speaks, the Caribbean, they talk loud, So, I mean, different people have different ways of speaking. And so sometimes when you take that into consideration, you give people more grace. Now, there are some people that are just
I'll add on to yours, KJ. This whole conversation, it really reminded me and reiterated that people are more than the stereotypes that they have or that we may place on them. And many times we individually, it may be collectively, but what we tend to do is we tend to find that stereotype that confirms our own bias. And we never really stop to even reflect on what we may be thinking or feeling because of a stereotype that we have bought into. So ultimately, this is why I'm an individualist, if you want to call it that. Get to know the person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I totally agree. But I will say, I do believe likability is very important. And I think one of you guys said, not just in the career and on the workplace, but in life. In life, you know, likability is very important because we have to be out here with different people. And I totally agree that if you're in a lab somewhere, or like with IT, a lot of IT people are not very likable people because they're generally, you know, working alone, you know, doing their thing alone. And so sometimes they just don't communicate well. But likability, I think, is very important, especially if you are, you know, working with the public, working with a group, something like that. I do think that is important, which was what mostly of this conversation was about. So that does it for us tonight. Any final thoughts, guys? I'll start with you, Yana. Final thoughts for tonight for our audience?
Well, as I always say, find your community. Don't be afraid to speak up. So this is for our audience, you know, always be brave. Don't be afraid to find the group of people that you can connect with.
All right. All right. Shelly, any final thoughts for the audience tonight?
I'll just say, reiterate, show up, stand up, strap up, and speak up.
All right. And Tyrone, please share where the audience can find you, and of course, any final thoughts you may have.
Well, we're on Soldiers of Finance here on YouTube. I encourage folk to check us out. And I just am appreciative to be able to join the good-looking, intelligent version of The View.
Yes, indeed. All right, and I'll end it there as well. Thank you guys for watching. We always say our mantra for 2024 is to be aware and prepare. We gave a lot of different nuggets of truth and knowledge tonight. Definitely share this broadcast. Share it in a DM. Share it on your social media timeline. Share. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe. We are no longer talking to the sheep. We are here to speak to the lions. Wake the lions and let you guys know a lot is coming. This is the most important election of our lifetime. So definitely stay tuned with us here. We will be back on Wednesday, live in the studio, Wednesday at 8 p.m. So if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when we go live. Oh, Shelly, yes.
Hold up. We have 2 super chatters. We want to say thank you.
Oh,
Johnny,
yeah.
Johnny Bravo and Toya Creations.
All right. Toya says, my body, my choice. What about my body, my choice with the COVID vaccine?
Oh.
People lost their jobs because of this. Trump 2024. Absolutely. We all agree there. Johnny Bravo. Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. All right. Until next time, count your blessings and live a life of purpose. Good night.